If you dread family gatherings, if you spend days preparing yourself mentally before you go, if you leave completely drained even when nothing dramatic happened, if you spend the drive home replaying every conversation, wondering if you said something wrong, this video is going to explain exactly why. And it's not because you're antisocial. It's not because you don't love your family. It's because family gatherings are not neutral events for people pleasers. They're performances, and performing is exhausting. If you leave every family gathering feeling like you need 3 days to recover, it's not a flaw in your personality. That is what happens when you spend hours being everything to everyone and nothing to yourself. Here's what nobody talks about. For most people, a family gathering is just a gathering. There's food, conversation, and catching up. For a people pleaser, it's a minefield that requires constant navigation. Before you even walk through the door, your nervous system is already on high alert. You're already running through scenarios. Who is going to say something? What topic is going to come up? How you're going to respond if someone brings up your relationship, or your weight, or your job, or your choices. You've already prepared 3 different versions of yourself, depending on who you're sitting next to. That preparation phase alone is exhausting, and you haven't even arrived yet. Then you walk in, and the performance begins. You smile at the right moments, you laugh at jokes that aren't even funny, and you deflect questions that are really criticisms in disguise. You keep the peace between family members who can't be in the same room without tension. You make yourself smaller around the ones who make you feel like you are too much. You make yourself bigger, more cheerful around the ones who need you to be fine. You monitor the room constantly. Who needs attention? Who is upset? Who is about to say something that will cause a scene? And you position yourself accordingly. You are managing everyone else's experience while completely abandoning your own. And then someone says something, a comment about your life, a comparison to your sibling, a question that isn't really a question. And you feel it hit you, that familiar tightening in your chest. And you smile, and you say something neutral, and then you move on. Because causing a scene is worse than being hurt. Because keeping the peace is what you do. Because this is family and you love them even when they make you feel invisible. And by the time you leave, you are completely empty. Not because anything terrible happened, because you spent 3 hours being everything to everyone and nothing to yourself. I know this feeling intimately. I remember going to family events and spending the entire time in performance mode, monitoring, managing, deflecting, smiling, and then going home feeling this deep exhaustion that I couldn't explain to anyone. Because from the outside, everything is fine. Nothing happened. Nobody fought. It was a nice time, but I was depleted for days afterwards. And I didn't understand why until I started doing the work to understand what I was actually doing in those rooms. I wasn't attending a gathering, I was working a whole shift. And the moment I realized I had been working instead of living, is exactly the kind of realization that the People Pleaser's Emotional Reset Guide is built around. Because after a family gathering, when your nervous system is flooded and you can't quite come back to yourself, it walks you through how to slow down, process what happened, and reconnect with who you actually are underneath all the performing. It's completely free, and the link is in the description. So why does this happen specifically at family gatherings? Because family is where the original programming lives. Every pattern you developed as a people pleaser, the monitoring, the managing, the shrinking, the performing, you developed it first in your family. They are the original audience, the ones whose approval you learned to need before you even knew what approval was. So when you walk back into that environment, your nervous system doesn't care that you're an adult now. It doesn't care that you've done the work. It recognizes the setting and it goes straight back to the original programming. You can do a year of healing work. You can do years of healing work and still feel like you're 14 again the moment you walk into your parents' house. That's not failure. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do. The work is learning to respond differently. And this is why you can feel completely healed in your everyday life and then spend one afternoon with your family and then feel like you're 14 years old again. It's not regression, it's activation. Your body remembers when your mind has moved on. And in a narcissistic or toxic family system, it goes even deeper because those gatherings aren't just uncomfortable, they're carefully maintained systems designed to keep everyone in their roles. The scapegoat gets reminded of their role, the golden child gets rewarded for theirs, the peacekeeper works overtime, the family secret stays hidden, and everyone who steps outside of their assigned role, who speaks too freely, or takes up too much space, or refuses to perform, disrupts the entire system, and the system pushes back. That's why leaving a family gathering and feeling crazy is so common, because you just spent hours in a system that was actively working to keep you in a box. So, what do you actually do about all of this? The first thing is to give yourself permission to feel exactly how you feel about going. You don't have to be excited. You don't have to feel guilty for dreading it. Your feelings about those gatherings are completely valid, and they're data. They're telling you that something about these environments is costing you. They're telling you what these environments cost you. Honor that instead of dismissing it. The second thing is to decide before you go what you will and won't engage with. Not a rigid script, just a clear internal decision. If someone brings up this topic, I will say this and move on. If someone makes that comment, I won't take the bait. You're allowed to decide in advance that you will not be performing today, that you will show up as yourself and let the chips fall wherever they may. The third thing is to build in recovery time. Stop scheduling family gatherings back to back with other things. Stop expecting yourself to be fine immediately after. Give yourself the evening. Give yourself the next morning. Let yourself decompress without judgment. The exhaustion is real and it deserves to be treated as real. The fourth thing is to find one person in the room who is safe. Not to vent to them necessarily, but just to be near. Someone whose presence doesn't require you to perform. Someone you can make eye contact with across the room when something uncomfortable happens and just feel slightly less alone. If that person doesn't exist in your family, that's also information that you needed. Not every family has a safe person in the room, and recognizing that and really sitting with it is one of the loneliest and most important things that a people pleaser can do. If you've ever been at a family gathering and someone said something that hit you, it hurt you, and you just froze, you couldn't respond, you couldn't defend yourself, you went blank and then spent the whole time driving home thinking of everything you wish you had said, that's called the freeze response. And it happens to so many people pleasers in exactly these settings. The freeze recovery response kit gives you word for word responses for those moments. So the next time someone takes a shot at a family gathering, you're not standing there speechless. The link is in the description. Here's what I want to leave you with. The exhaustion you feel after family gatherings is not weakness. It is the cost of performing yourself into the ground for people who never had to do the same for you. You're allowed to stop performing. You're allowed to show up as the version of you that exists outside of these gatherings. The one who has done the work, who knows their worth, who doesn't need to earn their place at the table. You were born into this family, but you don't have to keep auditioning for it. If this video resonated with you, the next one you should watch is about how to deal with a toxic family member without cutting them off. Because sometimes you can't leave the gathering and you can't cut the person off, and you need to know how to protect yourself anyway. That video is going to be linked right there. Subscribe for weekly videos on healing from toxic family patterns and people pleasing, and comment below what is the most exhausting part of family gatherings for you. I read every single comment, and I'll see you in the next video.